Hey everyone, this is Josh here at Pop Culture Renegades with the newest episode of our Altered Carbon review. Joining me this week is John and Kelly. Say hi, guys.
What's up, what's up?
Hey.
So this week we are talking about episodes 3 and 4, titled...
In a Lonely Place and Force of Evil.
Oh, so you guys obviously weren't on the last episode.
Right.
So, just very quickly, what were your thoughts on episodes 1 and 2? Like, where we're up to at this point?
A lot of building. A lot of, slow, but it needed to be done. Number 1 was super fractured. Hard to really catch what was going on. 2 kind of got the ball rolling. Again, a little slow. But other than that, I thought they were good setups for 3 and 4.
I have to agree, they're pretty slow. I think that it was kind of hard to really stay focused on the actual series. But I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, I found it, like, for me, the first episode, it was hard to get into the show. Like, yeah. I had to force myself to do it because we were doing this. But I think, like, after getting through that, where it was just, like, super exposition heavy.
Yeah.
And once getting past that, like, now episodes 3 and 4,
I loved them.
So much happens.
I loved episodes 3 and 4.
You had to have episodes 1 and 2 in this time, at this point, to get anything out of 3 and 4. But it was very difficult to get through 1 and 2. I think if you did, you get rewarded with 3 and 4, yes. And hopefully the rest of this series is just as good.
Yeah.
So, going into episodes 3 and 4, what questions did you guys have left over from episodes 1 and 2? Of course, overall, with the exception of the who killed Bancroft, because we're probably not going to find that out until the last episode, right? If we even find that out on this season. But what were you guys looking to get answered?
I think I had similar questions to you guys did in the last episode, where something's up with Ortega, and we can't tell what it is yet. Like, something is weird about her. Her character is weird. I still don't get her. Sometimes I'm watching it and I'm like, what is the point of this, like what she just did here? And I think we're definitely, after episode 4, we're going to see a little bit more of that, but her character, I still have a lot of questions.
I hope so. Like, I'm hoping that we get at least, like, an Ortega-centered episode.
We probably will.
But I'm not sure if that's how this show works, because, like, so far, we're 4 episodes in, and obviously Kovacs is the main character, so a lot of things circle around him, but we haven't seen yet out of these 4 episodes, like, 1 episode that focused on any of the other supporting characters yet. So that might be a thing, but I don't know.
But there's lots of callbacks to Ortega, especially in 3 and 4. She may not be a centered character or centered episode, but she's a nucleus. She's constantly being referenced, and things are constantly going on with her. So she's pivotal, and there's a lot of character development with her, and there's a lot of questions I have about her as a person and as a character in general. You think being a cop, you're automatically a good guy.
Yeah.
But
she's breaking a lot of the rules.
She breaks a lot of the rules, and you kind of I ended up, at least after episode 4, kind of just not liking her. She's not a good cop. She's doing things that she shouldn't be doing. She's really self-centered. I mean, she's the kind of cop you'd see on, someone on the news that someone videotaped with their phone doing something they probably shouldn't have been doing, and so you're like,
See, to me, she kind of comes across as the cop who would be yelling at the other cops for doing that, but then doing other stupid, shady shit herself.
Yeah.
Like, she's the one that's got to call everyone out on their bullshit.
Right.
But then have her own bullshit that's completely different.
No, I totally agree. She's definitely one of those, like, holier than thou people, and but push come to shove, she'll do anything she can. Like, she stole the Hawkeye unit.
Yes.
And it comes up in episode 4, I gotta, they're riding my ass about finding that missing one, and she's just like, and you're like, and even her partner backs her up and doesn't say nothing, so.
But we've learned more about why he's backing her up.
Right, of course.
Not much.
We'll get to that here in a minute.
Right, so, okay, so episode 3. Episode 3 starts off with Kovacs, and...
I keep wanting to say Kovacs.
Yeah, because I keep seeing it in, like you said, in the subtitles.
Right.
But it's
Slavic.
As we find out in this episode.
Ortega emphasizes it strongly, so she definitely says Kovac, and so when she says it, I'm either thinking, is she saying it wrong, or is that really how it's pronounced?
Right. And we found out in this episode, like you just said, that he is part Slavic and part Japanese.
Yes.
Right. Well.
Which is why it's Takeshi, right?
Takeshi Kovacs.
Kovacs.
Which, by the way, when his sister calls him Takeshi-kun, that's super hard. Like, it does not roll at all, and you're like, oh god.
Well, there's that, and like in this beginning part where they're reading the story, and she's like, talk. I'm like, talk. Why is she telling him to talk?
Right.
And I was like, oh wait, no, that's.
It's not just English.
Yeah.
She's actually calling his name. Yeah. Shortened version, which makes sense. And his girlfriend, the main antagonist, Quell. Thank you. Yeah. The Quell, she calls him Tack all the time.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, you know, I think more people should probably start getting into that, but I think not enough people in this zone when he's been reawakened or spun up, as they like to say.
Right. He doesn't actually.
Nobody knows him.
Yeah. He doesn't have any friends. I mean, I guess he doesn't have any friends, but anyone that he is acquainted with, yeah.
But I do like you had mentioned this in passing. I don't think it was in the last episode, but the case of stacks that you see in the museum. Right. Are those working, and will we see?
Well, we saw
eventually.
I still need to know what's going on with the tree, because like, you know, that Songspire tree was touched upon in the first episode when he was asking about where they got it from.
He's got it on a necklace.
He's got the necklace that has a piece of it, and we know that it has some sort of connection with the stacks because they started lighting up when that, or I don't know if it has a connection or if it's just the. How they interface with each other, but something
like if it's an energy source for the stacks.
But did you notice in the party? I think it was episode
3 is when
three. Right. They're playing music and this tree is like moving at the same time. It's like moving and lighting. And did you notice that? It was a real quick little snippet. Right. It was hard to notice. I don't know if that's interrelated. You know, Songspire tree. You know, you got music. I don't know.
Right. I mentioned this in the first episode that the tree reminds me a little bit of the mother tree from Avatar.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
So there's with the energy flowing through, there's definitely something going on with the tree that's going to come up at some point.
Right.
Later.
We're just not there.
We just don't know what it is.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't know.
Yeah.
This show seems to just raise more questions than it ever answers, and
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
They just have to, and at least in these 2 episodes, we got a lot of questions answered. So it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, now we kind of see where it's going and what's going on.
See, I don't think we got a lot of answers, but I think the big hangers are more, you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, there's a little bit more explanation. You're not taking everything on faith and what's going on.
Right. So getting into some of the questions from this episode, though, like the Patchwork Man. So this story is about some guy who had like slave labor as kids, like kids as slave labor.
Well, it wasn't the real story because she would say it. No, tell it our way. And so I think it had something to do with their past. A lot of what they put into the story,
their upbringing,
or even what was going on with them at the time, because you know they're telling the story. And then after they finish telling the story, this guy comes in and confronts their mother and starts beating the shit out of her.
Assumably their stepfather or father.
Was it their mother?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I definitely think it was. You know, just going on. I agree with you.
Right. So I don't know what that was about, because we don't know. Like he was just like, you know, don't lie to me, and like saying all these things to her, but we don't know like what the background of that was.
Right. And it was just a fairy tale or a grim fairy tale that they told, but it's just going to come up.
Yeah.
It's just.
It shows like these, they hide a lot of metaphors into the,
we're three
every
episodes in, and we're already
that gets brought up. So
exactly.
Patchwork Man is going to be something.
7 episodes left.
I would say definitely expect some of that to materialize into something real here in the next few episodes. If not just be revisited further just in the flashbacks.
Right. So most of this episode, like after this, we fast forward into the future, and what was that? Bancroft gives Takeshi Kovacs a call, and it's like, hey, I'm having a party tonight. I invited all these people who might want to kill me. Yeah. You should come.
Right.
And he's like, parties aren't my thing. Yeah. Which I can relate to that.
Everyone has that party they go to that they didn't want to go to. You went for other reasons, but you you're looking at Kovac and you think to yourself, or I'm going to call him Tak from now on. Let's just do that. I'm going to try to do that because it's hard to call an Asian guy Kovac. I'm going to be honest with you. But
well, he's whitewashed, so
yeah, that's true. I have an issue with that, but that it ended up coming up later, and so I'm excited they're explaining even that aspect.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
At least episode 4. When we get to episode 4, we actually have like an explanation for that.
Right. Exactly.
More or less.
It's kind of it hints at something, and so we're looking into it more. But the party was very interesting, and the fact that Vernon Elliott. Vernon Elliott, he befriends this guy who basically he thought originally was a suspect, and he's using his envoy skills to kind of amass people that he can trust and can help him and accomplish his task. And you begin like, this guy's kind of sick, in my opinion. You see it, he's just looping his daughter in this really terrible VR setup,
which I kind of understood like where he was coming from with that.
Right.
Like I don't agree with it, but like as a grieving father, it would make sense that he would want to preserve her somehow without knowing how to do it.
Right. And he obviously, he says many times he doesn't have the means, and you can just see that he's just, he's just living his life basically in this VR, trying to deal with his daughter or talk to her. And but he goes and he helps and he does the thing. And the surprising part about the whole issue was that as kind of an exchange, Kovac or Tak, however you want to refer to him, is like, hey, I'll help you if you want to help me. We'll work on your daughter. And he gets Poe to kind of do some kind of virtual training in psychology or something. And
I thought it was interesting, actually, that when he was negotiating with Vernon about helping him out, the guy's like, why are you helping me out? And Kovac actually admits, like, I don't care about anyone. Like, he admits right then and there that he's not doing any of this to help these people. He's doing it to help himself.
Right, which, you have to respect his honesty with that.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, look, you basically, you're just an ends to a means. This is the things that I need. Let me be the ends to your means.
Yeah.
I'm going to use you to get the stuff that I need. Use me to get the stuff that you want to.
And he's not trying to sell him snake oil or anything. He's just saying, hey, look, you need something, I need something. Let's work each other out. And I'm being upfront and honest, and I think especially someone like a Marine, they really respect that, even if it isn't the most pure of intentions. They're, they understand, like, hey.
Right, and we're finally starting to see like almost like a buddy cop system type working too, because like Poe was kind of getting in there for a little while, trying to be like, hey, let me be your partner. I want to be your partner.
Yeah, he was like, he's like, I'm his acquaintance. He's like, nope, and he's like, I'm the hotel manager. Like,
and then Kovac was like, well, that's true. He is the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did tie into that whole flashback that Kovac sees, where his Quill, I believe it was, how she was saying, like, you need to build a pack, find ways to inspire loyalty. So this is him, like, finding his pack, and even she's saying, like, many of them will ultimately be sacrificed, expendable.
Right.
So this is him basically, everything he's been doing is following Quill's instructions every step of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that that's definitely where
even
all
if
these
it is
flashbacks are happening. Yeah.
Even if it is reluctantly following them.
Yeah, it seems like he's like maybe, I don't know how to word this. Not as hard.
Yeah.
As like he wants to let on. Like it seems like he's actually building some kind of a relationship with Ortega and with Vernon and reluctantly with Poe.
I feel differently. I feel like it's not really a relationship, it's a partnership. Like he's like working with them out of necessity, but I wouldn't say that he's becoming friends with Vernon.
I don't know. He's like at the end of this episode, after the party, when Vernon meets Ortega.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I like," and he's like, "Oh, I like her," and he's just like, "Oh, wait 10 minutes."
Yeah.
Like they're building up a rapport with each other. So yeah,
right.
that's definitely something that partners would do. But I could easily see it also going forward where by the end of the season or by the end of the story, he actually, like, there's going to be some kind of sort of an incident where he has the ability to let Vernon sacrifice himself or let Ortega sacrifice herself, and maybe doesn't.
See, I think most of his training would say otherwise, and yeah, you're in a world alone, But the thing about being an envoy is that you can adapt to any situation lively. You're constantly, you know, in different areas and doing different things. I don't think so. I think there's definitely going to be... I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this season, everyone's dead, except...
Yeah, I mean, I'm more on that route mostly, and it's something that doesn't really come to play until episode 4, but there is he's devoted to Quill. And it seems like he does have a vendetta. He wants revenge, and I think he will do anything to get revenge for what seems like, his love. Funny. And so she's telling him what to do, and I think he's going to listen, even if that means Vernon will die or.
I agree.
Or Tega will die.
But back to the devotion factor, I thought it was interesting that he ended up having sex with Miriam, and
cheap pheromones.
Well, I mean, don't all women? Let's be honest, fellas.
No, it was an upgrade to her. It was an upgrade to her sleeve.
I know. But I mean, I'm just saying
that was also something that he had mentioned in episode 1, where he's like, "Look, I've been down for 250 years. People build up hormones. I just need."
We gotta let him go.
I just need to let it happen.
You know, but you're in there, and it's your employer's wife. You know this guy's ridiculously powerful, and again, it comes back to kind of bite him. Because
well, that's why at the party, that's the whole reason that he got pulled into that fight.
And he got pulled into that fight, and he got told, "I own you. At any point, you go back on ice." And it's like, that Tak is smart enough to know that shouldn't have happened.
But I feel like there is technology that we can't compete with. Like, nothing's really organic anymore. He can't, like, stuff is made to make people do certain things. And I feel like there might be a point, like, sure, what we've seen him do in episode 4 was pretty impressive. He was able to resist it, but maybe some stuff his guard's just down.
Maybe, but I think maybe on an ulterior motive, I think what could be is that he's trying to coax something out of either Miriam or... maybe intentionally pissing them off to see, hey, look, maybe you aren't who you say you are. Like, maybe if it didn't bother him that he slept with Miriam, maybe it supports the theory that it's not. But I can't remember.
Well, when he's talking to Ortega,
right,
and he reveals to Ortega that he did sleep with Miriam, and he used the word leverage.
Right,
that's what she was trying to find.
Yeah.
So I think it was
tactical.
Tactical. It was a twofold thing for him. It was him saying, "I'm gonna bang this chick," and she's looking for something. I can use this to my advantage later.
I could see that.
I would think that that's something there. Definitely could be double. Yeah.
Speaking about Miriam getting banged though, at the party.
Yeah. That was a whole new concept that hadn't been really introduced.
I mean, it was definitely something I didn't see coming, and now that it's been revealed, it's kind of like...
It's game changer.
Right, well explain to us what this is that you're referring to.
You see Miriam, she goes into a secret door.
Okay,
bookcase, James Bond stuff.
Before we see her go into a secret door, she was in 2 places at once.
That's right.
He looked at her, and then, he looked away, and, the second he looks away, she's in a new spot, and so... I don't know if it was Miriam and Miriam too, or if it was the same girl and her sleeve has more upgrades than just the pheromones.
You know what?
I'm assuming that it was Miriam and the
Miriam
daughter.
too.
Okay. So what ends up happening is she goes in this, and I think she's with a waiter or something. And
it was the guard. He took his backpack.
Oh, the guard.
Right,
okay, sorry. It was someone low class, essentially, that would have no business. And so Tak walks in on them, obviously having sex. And the way she reacts is obviously his intuition kicks off and is like, "Who the hell are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm Miriam." And you're like, "No, try again."
Yeah, he's like, "What's my name?"
Yeah, exactly. And
fine, you got me.
So it's a 67-year-old daughter borrowing her mom's super suit.
Her 12th daughter.
Yeah,
their 12th daughter, who's 67 years old,
looking good for her age, I'm sure.
In her mother's sleeve,
which her mother's sleeve's clone. Which means they have multiple of the sleeves that they're in.
So now, that raises a bunch of questions. Now, the gun that blew... God, I'm blank. Bancroft, thank you. Yeah. Bancroft's head...
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah. Lawrence Bancroft.
And blew off the main guy's head. Could only be unlocked by him and the wife.
Right. It has a biocoded access point, so... Okay. It had to be one of their sleeves.
She's got all the nomenclature down. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. You're making me look bad. So we go and we find out that now not only are the Bancrofts allowed to go from their clone to their clone essentially infinite amount of times because they have that much influence and power and money. Now Offspring can, or maybe anyone can. That hasn't really been answered.
Right.
That question.
We know that anyone can needle into any stack or any sleeve. Anyone can go into any sleeve. So, in theory, anyone could have entered one of the clones and gotten access to that. It didn't necessarily have to be a family member.
But when you went into the clone scene in episode 3, you saw that they had armed guards everywhere.
Right.
So they had to have access somehow. So now,
but see, that also ties into. Sorry for interrupting. But
no, you're good.
Ties into one of my questions from episodes 1 and 2, where we see Poe when he's talking to the AIs, and they're like, "Oh, well, we have a plan." Well, what if the AIs were able to needle into one of the sleeves?
See, I don't. That's the thing I've been speculating since I've only seen up to episode 4, just to keep the information fresh. I haven't finished on the show. I personally, at this moment in this episode in time, don't think that that's the real Bancroft that we keep seeing. I think it could be someone else in his sleeve.
So that's a good. I haven't that's something that I thought about, but I haven't put much weight into.
And I mean, one of the kids could have accessed it, and they stated the daughter said, if he dies, we get nothing. And so the kids don't want him to be dead. So I think that one of the kids could have accessed his sleeve and become him so that they still are not
and we also know that you can duplicate yourself because of Dimitri.
Yeah.
So
punishable of real death, though.
Right.
However, there is a big thing, and I know the Bancrofts have a lot of power and sway.
At the party, they said we don't have to follow the law. Like we basically have done everything.
And that's been true the first 4 episodes anyway. Yeah. So, you look at it and you kind of think about it, but
I
don't know. To me, there's not enough to go on that theory yet. It's very plausible.
Yeah.
But I feel like the monologue that he had, like, if I wanted myself dead, I would be dead. Like, he seems like the kind of man that could reasonably pull that up.
Theory, obviously.
Right.
And so for me, there's not enough to go on. It's still just a super tangent theory, in my opinion. I think there is a killer. There is someone out there, and we don't know why. The AI theory is interesting. However, how would they transfer their AI into that DHF? So it's kind of
no idea. That's like my Daniel Jerome nomenclature. That's my crackpot theory.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely to me. Both of those seem very plausible, but I feel like we need to at least get to the end of season 1 before we really have a direction.
You have to imagine that everything that we're seeing at this point has to be interconnected in one way or another. Like whatever it is that the AIs are up to has to play into this somehow. Whatever it is that happened to Lizzie has to play into this somehow. Some of the stuff that we'll be talking about in episode 4 that comes about has to play into this overall thing. So I think that everything has to be somehow connected.
Right. I mean, obviously the Lizzie and Lawrence Bancroft thing, obviously connected, choked her out and kept, but so that's not how she died. Because anytime you killed someone, it was like, hey, upgrade sleeve, no problem.
Right.
And that's just kind of how the vibe you get of these people is like, throw money at the problem. And it's fine, everyone's
which
cool.
seems like that's, I mean, in this future, that's what they can do, is if you have enough money, you don't have any problems.
And, I mean, let's face it, that's still kind of the case in there.
Granted.
You're right, but the party...
Except for permadeath.
No.
We're
working on it. But, just in general, I thought that it was a very big stretch, and it was a big stretch for me and very circular to kind of be like, his random partner's daughter is getting choked out by the guy who's employing him, and I was like, But then it ended up they tied it in really nicely. Right. I thought they did a really good job of it, and the way that Tack is just like, oh, I'm actually her mom, I was like, oh,
he's a professional.
He got, you definitely knew he got he there was a moment of oh shit, what do I say? She doesn't believe me. How do I get this credibility?
It was quick, though.
It was. So that's that envoy kind of intuition, I think, coming through.
Now, there was one thing I actually wanted to ask you guys that gave me a question about Ortega. During the party, they have the sleeve fights. And
right.
So basically, and it was a married couple that they had
fighting each other to the sleeve death.
In order for one person to get upgraded and one person to get downgraded. Which I don't know how that really comes out on top. I mean, if someone gets an upgraded, I see, but if a married couple, like someone gets downgraded, how does that help you guys advance? But regardless of that, they go on to talk about how they have kids, and they're like, Tack had said, you go home as different people every night to your kids, like, you know, how old are they? And I think it was like 7,
5 and 6 or something.
Yeah.
They were young.
And they're like, they're used to it. And both at the same time, Tack and Ortega said they're not used to it. So clearly, Ortega and Tack have some sort of childhood, like in common childhood. Like they've experienced some stuff that the other person has experienced as well.
Right. Well,
something
I
in
think,
common.
I don't know that that's necessarily, I mean, yeah, it's probably something that's in common for them, but it also seems like something that like regular people would have to deal with too. Just that, you know, if your dad came home and it was in a different body, you're 5 years old, you're really going to be used to that.
Yeah, has that concept really sunk in? You've only had a stack in you for 4 years at that point,
right?
You know, so I think the whole concept just seems a bit. You're right. I just don't think the kids are there, and I don't know. For me, it just seemed more of a, like, that was 250 years from when Tack got reawakened. That was less common, and now it's like, oh, you know, it's no big deal. They see it all the time. Ortega's very old school though. She's doing things she's kind of more in the past, living in the past, in my opinion, than most people in that current age. Like, she's not really accepted the way things are in the world. And that's my opinion, and that's probably why it's like, no. You know, yeah, the kids are great and all, but they're not used to that.
Right.
Maybe.
So from the party, what other things like kind of stood out to you guys? It was like, to me, it was just kind of weird, like how people were reacting to the fighting too. Like there was that one part during the fight.
They got blood.
Yeah. Where
they're like, hey.
The woman gets splattered in blood, and she's just like licking it off.
Yeah, it was weird.
I'm like, that's bizarre.
I think that they were really trying to emphasize like the really bougie lifestyles of the rich and the famous. Like, they were eating tiger. How over the top can you get? Like, what one animal could they have picked where it's like, all right, well, like,
what's the most offensive meal? What's the most offensive meal we could get?
So I think a lot of it was kind of to show like, this is the like top of the top upper class, and they don't care about life itself, and they will do anything just to show off how wealthy they are.
Right.
And these are people who don't have to feel anything or feel anything that they want to, and to have someone suffer and bleed and probably experience a degree of pain that they will probably never experience or have never experienced.
Well, even
look at it.
Bancroft himself even said, God is dead, we've taken his place. So they all feel like they're in charge of the world.
We also know that like religion is looked at really differently in this period of time too, because there's the Neo-Catholics, who were protesting outside in the first episode when Kovacs first came out, and they're like, like being re-sleeved is your ticket, one-way ticket to hell. Like you've got one body, that should be it.
Right.
But obviously, everyone else doesn't feel the same way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about like how, like from a philosophical point of view, how that just completely changes everything.
Yeah.
Like and even like your thoughts of religion, like if this becomes possible, what does religion even really mean?
Yeah. I mean, right now religion runs like a lot of what we do in this time period. Like government, the church and state are pretty close.
It's a system of power.
Yeah, really, and so it seems like in this futuristic world, the church has really been distanced. God has really been distanced because people feel like they have become God. And so I feel like it's kind of put like a little spin on religion, how we see it now, into like the complete opposite for this show.
Right. So what did we learn by the end of this party? Like where are we at? Because like the whole point of this party was for Kovacs to go there and like interrogate people.
Bancroft
owns. Well, not really interrogate people, but kind of talk to people and figure out if any of them are suspects to killing him.
I feel like that wasn't his plan. I feel like he legit invited Tack to come and show him off as the last envoy. Like, even in at first he's like, yeah, try and find out information, and so he's like keeping it covered. He's like, yeah, I've been off planet or whatever, came back.
Right.
And then like at the end he's like, everyone meet like my most unique item. I have the lost envoy, and so he kind of like blows his cover in front of everyone he claims could have killed him.
Although I have to say, like, there's two reasons that I can see for that happening, but like Kovacs didn't fill him in on how he was going to be questioning everyone, so. No one really knew what his purpose of being there was. So like him blowing his cover, did he really blow his cover? Because like he.
Well, the way that Kovacs was handling it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that was on purpose on.
But I
Bancroft's
I think everyone who was anyone at that party already knew that Tak didn't belong. He was only one of two meths one of two non-meths in that whole party.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like. If you're at that social status, you pretty much know everyone and you've done everything. It's pretty incestuous at that point, in my opinion. In any small niche group, it ends up being that way. At least, what I think ended up happening was this was a real gut check from Lawrence to Tak, saying, "You stepped out of line, banging my wife. At any given point, I'm gonna put you back on ice if I don't like what you're doing.
I brought you back. Yeah. I can take you back.
I really think that was the entire point of him going and coming and doing. And he threw him in that fight just for that reason.
Like how much fuck you money do you have to just to spend that much money to prove a point to someone else?
Yeah. Right. And
I mean that
he's got enough money. I mean he has a full pardon for Tak already, just waiting, and he's like. I don't care. How did you do that? There's no way. I've done too much. And he's like,
yeah.
Influence is influence, man.
Right.
So, yeah. So I think at the end of this episode, you see that Tak still will not back down off of Bancroft. He will not. He's putting the pressure on him, and Bancroft pushes back.
Right.
And it doesn't phase the envoy at all.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked, is it didn't phase him. He didn't say sorry. He didn't care. He was like, I'm doing my job.
Right, yeah.
And if you don't like it...
Yeah, this is what you brought me back for. This is why I'm here, so this is what I'm doing.
Exactly. So that's my takeaway from Real Ep3. And the fact that Ortega, while she probably would rather have Tak out of the picture, definitely does have good cop tendencies.
Yes, I mean, seems like she's trying to do good. She's definitely against all these like higher ups like doing whatever the heck they want, but I don't know if it's the greater good of the world or if it's for herself. Like I don't know if she's being selfish.
Hard to say.
Well, I mean, obviously she has something against people with money.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I'm just saying I don't know if it's like you have to follow the law or I don't like that you do this. It pisses me off.
Right. I mean, but that's just the hypocritical nature of everyone. Like I'm sure at some point in time you've yelled at someone for doing something that you have done yourself.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely.
But
we'll get more to that for episode 4, I think, because she really, I think, crosses the line there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we need to kind of focus more on those do as I say, not as I do.
Right. So since we're kind of at the end now, what actually happens that leads us into episode 4 is after the party, Kovacs goes back to the Jack It Off Club to talk to Alice again, and she comes out. She's beaten to hell. And she says, I'm sorry they made me do it, and she jams a needle into his neck and drugs him.
Which, let's face it, he probably would have taken voluntarily anyway at this point in the series. He's so into the...
I mean, it was strange because when he's, like, phasing out, it actually seemed like he had cared for that girl. Like, he told her, like, in episode 2, I think it was, like, you're worth more than this.
Right.
So, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about him actually, like... forming some kind of actually, it's not necessarily even that he's forming some kind of thing, because like you can see, we'll talk about this in episode 4.
But she never got in the way of his...
Right, she never got in the way of anything. Yeah. This kind of goes into the training montage, not montage, but section that we'll talk about in the next episode. But it seems like he kind of doesn't necessarily follow all the rules that envoys were taught to follow. Like, he kind of goes against the norm and does things a little bit differently. Like, he still gets the job done, and he's good at what he does.
I feel like he's been following them pretty well, but...
I think we don't know
We
enough
only
about the
see-
envoys and the
We
training
only
to
see the
really
small little flashback.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know
So I
enough.
don't know. Maybe he is breaking some rules.
I think that he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. He's creating that loyalty. He's creating that
Yeah,
group
building
of
his
trust,
pack.
building a pack. Exactly, that's the phrase they use in the later episode.
Right.
And so he's kind of getting into that. And I think you don't really know that by 3, but it really leads into it in coming into 4 that he's gaining steam. People start to kind of like him and want to work with him, and you see that he does have morals. He does have code. And he does genuinely care, at least on surface level.
Right, yeah, he has his own code of ethics that he follows.
Right, exactly.
It might not align with everyone else's, but...
It doesn't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. It's his code, and he does what he needs to do that falls within those lines.
Right.
Before we jump into episode 4, there were a few things that I kind of wanted to point out about episode 3. Not really like speculating, but more like how much I enjoy the detail that they put into this show. So, for example, I love the character Poe. He's like one of my favorite characters in the whole show, and I love the Raven. And one thing that I like that I don't know if it's going to mean something later, but in Poe's hotel, it's kind of like a clash of new technology as well as old-fashioned technology. Like when Vernon's watching the TV to see Lizzie, it's like an old-fashioned TV, and you got the old-fashioned receiver, and but the technology is supposed to be new. So I don't know if that's something that speaks on Poe's character, like if he's trying to
I think that all
help
goes
the old
into
ways.
I think that all goes into the like how he was built and because the entire hotel is based off of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all this like macabre,
like. But
Victorian style things.
I think that might speak more into his position on the AI grouping. I don't really know what they're doing, plotting. I don't know what they're doing, but I think that he might side more with like old-fashioned like humanity than just like.
Well, he announced it that his whole purpose in life for an AI as an AI is to understand and get to know humanity better, whereas everyone else is like, humanity sucks.
Yeah,
we need to get rid of them. We have
no. It's not necessarily that they want to get rid of them. They use them for financial gain. Like they say that they will like sell people to other people. Like, So
You're right.
I don't think it's necessarily that they're trying to wipe out humanity. I think they're just trying to control it. I think they want to be the next god.
I really don't see that's a real that's two shades of the same color to me, in my opinion, you know.
But not like not kill them off and just have it Planet of AIs, but like
we're not looking at Judgment Day.
It's
just
no Skynet here.
No genocide.
But so we'll see. I mean, again, there's so much that we don't know, but episode 3 definitely was very exciting to watch, very interesting, and again answered some of the questions and definitely picked up the pace from 1 and 2.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things that we also didn't talk about here that we don't really need to go into like complete detail on is how much work Poe actually is putting into helping Lizzie.
Right.
And we see how it's affecting Vernon because he's watching on the TV like as he's in there since he's not able to actually go in there himself because if any human person has any contact with Lizzie in that VR state, then it's just going to throw everything that Poe's been doing just like out the window.
Right. I mean, anyone who's seen anyone with any kind of psychological issues, sometimes you just gotta sort that stuff out.
So I think like that shows like how far Vernon has actually come in this episode too, because like he went from being this guy who was holed up in his apartment to being this guy who's like, okay, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna help,
basically the world was over for him, and now he actually
now it shows that he has something to live for now.
He has
so
purpose.
It's changing, it's changing his entire outlook, and his character is coming to life too.
Do you think they can bring Lizzie back?
If
Poe fixes her, they can save her stack.
Yeah, I think if she gets out of that loop, they could save the stack, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think something tragic's going to happen, and there's going to be.
Did she say something at the end of episode 3, or was that at the end of episode 4?
No. She said something in episode 3, and she had talked about like something about how she'd stolen the snow or something. Like she'd taken the snow, so she was punished. Or something about the stars. She'd taken the stars, so she was punished.
That was her mom that she actually said. They said mom took the stars and was punished. She wasn't talking about herself.
Something else.
There was a little moment there.
It was really confusing. I wasn't exactly
sure.
But
you could say that being the overarching theme of the damn series so far. But so I have a feeling that there's going to be just enough of a clue to lead to the next person, and then I have a feeling Lizzie Stack is gonna
Go
something
away.
will happen. Either,
I
and
hope they bring her back.
I hope not.
She has another show though. She's in the Riverdale show, so maybe she's too busy for.
Maybe. I don't know.
And you look at it and you say, you know, they're trying to hack other things. They could potentially hack Poe.
Yeah.
And you know, so you don't know. You don't.
Yeah,
Poe's
we
smart,
really
though.
don't know what's going on.
Poe is good. Don't get me wrong.
So complete end of episode. Kovacs wakes up and he's in like what looks like some sort of clinic, and
Yeah, it was like we thought maybe he was taken to the hospital, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
No.
thinking he's getting a checkup there.
No.
You know, not from the way that went down.
yeah, no. So he's in a not a great spot.
No, definitely not. Episode 4 starts out very interestingly.
This episode
this was an awesome episode.
It's
man.
interesting because I feel like there was a lot more going on in this episode.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's not as much to discuss at the same time because like a lot of it was like very condensed.
Yeah.
Like a lot. We got a lot of information.
The whole episode focused like on
but it was one thing.
Right. There was really one thing going on, but within that one thing, there's so many. Yeah, so many.
Yeah,
it was.
I like that we're going in that direction though, because like I said, you know, episode 1, it was just like a whole lot of exposition. Like, here's everything that you guys need to know so that you understand what's going on in the society, so you understand the series.
I do
Episode
feel
2
like-
was kind of the same.
I do feel like this one could have been somewhat of Ortega's focus episode also because of the whole All Hallows holiday.
Right.
So I feel
Right,
like it
right.
could have been like, and we did learn a lot more about her in this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we learned a lot more about Ortega. We learned a little bit more about Kovacs
In his sleeve.
and his sleeve. And
Yeah.
well, we learned a lot about his sleeve.
We learned, yeah.
Well, we learned
Like-
a lot, but not really.
I mean, we don't know.
We got like an answer, but with no explanation.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like reading
Yeah.
the last page of a book and
I mean,
not knowing
well, I
what
mean,
the hell.
this is kind of jumping to the end of
Right,
the
end of the episode,
but I
right.
mean that doesn't really matter for the purpose of the conversation. So, like, we find out that the body or the sleeve that Kovacs is in was a former police officer whose name was Riker.
Did we officially know that it was an officer or just her partner?
No, I think we know it's an
It's police
officer
officer.
because
Okay.
during
'Cause the
because
interrogation.
interrogation,
You're
he's
right.
like, "Who Riker," and Tack is like, "Who the hell is
Right.
Riker?" You know, and part of that is just him irritating his torturer.
And, this also confirmed one of my theories from the first episode that people were going to see him and assume that he wasn't Kovacs. And that he was the person who originally had that sleeve.
So you
Right.
everyone at the party thought he was the man on the sleeve?
Well, so that's who Dimitri thought he was.
Yeah.
That's who Dimitri thought he was,
Like,
yes.
Dimitri and like all those people are
But
going
how
after him
well
because they thought he
known-
was this Riker guy.
How well known is Riker?
Apparently well known enough.
Well known enough that one of the top hackers in the world basically wanted him dead.
Yeah.
So right there, that
Well,
tells
someone
you
succeeded.
Someone, yeah. Well, again, his stack might still be good. We don't know.
That's true.
Strikers,
But
we
then
have
why
no
would
idea.
his body not have been
Right.
dead?
So now
Just because your body dies, they remove your stack.
But then his body didn't die. That's
But
why it was still a sleeve.
Right, it was
right,
asleep, but it might have been repaired.
No,
You know, who knows?
I thought-
and he got a prison sentence for what he got framed for.
Right.
So his stack is now serving time.
Right. So Stack is in the dark and his sleeve was available.
I see what you're
There we
saying.
go, there we go.
Because they
that's-
reuse the bodies.
Right,
Yeah.
because that's what we learned at the beginning of the first episode. If you remember from that 7-year-old girl who ended up in the old lady,
Yes.
where they were like, you get what's available.
Yes,
so
of course.
That lady was arrested for something.
And so she got put in, and then her body got passed
re-sleeved,
on.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing with in this episode, Ortega's grandmother, who ended up in that guy that she tased in the
rental.
police station.
A
But
was
the
a rental,
grandmother passed. Her original sleeve passed, and she just was never re-sleeved, right? Because her family was so
Right.
against it. But she had put in the system that she was open to it, right?
That was never
I
fully
bel- I
explained.
believe
She,
so.
she had mentioned
She had converted
something-
from Neo-Catholicism to.
she mentioned something about how the grandmother had done something in the system after her husband had passed.
Yeah, so they were both Neo-Catholics,
Yes.
I guess would be the term. They
Right,
haven't really
right.
said it. They're both Neo-Catholics. And then the grandfather,
Yes.
Abuelo, died first and then said,
He
you know
was-
what? I kind of want the option. And that's what she changed
Yeah, that's
in
what
the
she did.
system. Whereas the grandfather will never come back. And at the end of the episode, Abuela's like, don't bring me back.
Yeah, she was like, "This is it. I took care of everything that I needed to take care of."
Right. And,
Which puts a whole new meaning to the Dia de los Muertos.
yeah.
Because,
Right.
like, that's all about the dead visiting to...
Right. So this episode was literally the Day of the Dead because the dead came back
And I loved it.
to do to finish unresolved business.
Yeah, I loved it.
Which again was a kind of another layer of the onion here, where you don't have to permanently put in a stack. You could be renting a sleeve.
Right.
You could rent a sleeve for a day or whatever.
We know that's a thing too, because they were talking about, again, earlier on in episode 1 or 2, how you can needle into other, like if you have a meeting in like another part of the country, or another galaxy or anywhere, someone can needle into whatever sleeve is there that's available, while that person was needling into another sleeve somewhere else.
But this is, so you're right. They kind of touch on it, but more of a recreational renting, I thought was a unique piece that this episode offered. Again, something that was going on that didn't really quite. But so we start the episode. He's on the table, right?
Right.
And that's really where your focus is almost the entire episode.
Yeah, Ortega's family.
This clinic type room or whatever.
Right. And we don't know what's going on. We don't know why he's there, and we quickly find out.
We also find out that the body of the girl from Jack It Off is there too.
Right. That's right.
I did not remember her name.
Alice.
Alice. Okay.
Yeah.
Was her actual name? Anemone was the whore name.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Anemone was her cinnamon.
Oh, okay. Cinnamon.
But
wait, sorry, with an SYN.
just to throw it off.
Get out of here. All right.
I did find this technology really intriguing. How you can do like a virtual interrogation where you can just make it last forever and mentally break someone down.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder what other technology
it's like almost like Inception.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And
I mean, this is where we found out that this bearded guy that we saw show up at the end of this last episode was actually Dimitri's twin.
Yeah,
right.
Which
Dimitri's twin in another sleeve.
Right, which I kind of...
It's a copy. Twin copy being...
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Most likely, but this actually confirmed it, where it was like, okay, well, we knew his twin was going to show up somewhere.
Yeah.
This is where it is.
Yeah.
And I still think this is a twin. This is not the original.
No, this isn't the original. They took his stack when Kovac shot him in the Raven.
So Kovac took his stack.
No, Ortega, Bay PD took it, but he's already duplicated himself once.
So you think
I think this is still another duplicate. I think
that there's another one of him running around.
So it's more than a twin.
Yeah, and I mean, he already lost one. He's like, okay. Why would you put yourself at risk at this point going after the guy who killed your clone or your double, essentially? And he's already done it once. Why wouldn't he do it again?
Yeah.
To me, if you're smart and that's the route you're
taking... There's no reason that he wouldn't.
Exactly. To me, it's like, hey, look, you're already penalty of real death, meaning your stack gets destroyed for duplicating yourself. What's duplicating yourself again?
Right.
Really? I mean, you're not going to die twice.
Through this interrogation that Dimitri is like doing all this random shit to him inside this VR, like, you know, he's torching him, he's setting him on fire. There were
chopped his legs off.
Later on, after he was like, this shit isn't working, like, you know, you guys
they stepped
like,
it up
this work. They had those weird bug things that
it was
called the Matrix looking things.
What was it? They called it something. It had a term, and it was kind of like an ominous term.
It was like
but it was basically their top interrogation tactic.
Yeah, to quote Spinal Tap, they brought it up to 11.
Yeah, they brought it to 11.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he ended up having to get the okay to use that and maybe pay a little extra for that code.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. It was an interesting concept, like, hey, look, you know, you can torture him with everything, but here's the good stuff for an extra cost.
Yeah,
you know,
I found that interesting, was that the torture was a program within itself. It wasn't just okay, we're gonna put you into this virtual room and you can torture this guy. Like, it was a specific program specifically for torture.
Right.
And that there were limits within it with how far he could go, and that they had to break those limits with additional
cost. Everything's a business in the future.
And I thought that was a really interesting concept, because the fact that there were limits, and this is obviously, I mean, a shady or underground kind of business, you're kind of like, okay, well, you know, you're already catering to people who, you know, necessarily don't follow the rules. So
right. So
why have limits?
So just keep extorting them for as much money as you can.
You know, it made sense. It made sense.
That's what I would do.
Ended up not working out so well.
For anyone.
Yeah, no.
Even the people who's like, I just work here.
So what did we actually learn out of it? Like, we learned a lot out of this interrogation.
We definitely did.
Like we were saying before, we learned about this Riker guy.
Yes.
Right.
We also got a little bit more backstory with how the envoys were training.
Yeah, we got a lot of Tack's backstory. We figured out that he was originally a protectorate.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. And he had to have been high level, but not high enough to have seen, I can't remember the character's name, who took herself out and 17 or 20 real stacks with a self-destructing bomb.
Oh, right.
That was interesting because that instantly turned Quell against Tack.
Yeah.
Like she already had a grudge against him, and
right.
he utilizes that in his training against her.
Right, and that like with her, this is kind of what I was talking about in the last during episode 3 was where he didn't exactly follow the rules, because like we see like as he's being trained to
he wants to jump off that way.
Yeah, no. Try and protect himself from this type of torture that's happening to him right now. This interrogation method.
Yeah.
Quell took all the envoys in, including his sister.
Right.
And it was like, okay, all of you guys have to break free of this. And he ended up kissing Quell within this virtual reality world, and that's how he got her to drop the knife or the gun or whatever it was that she had. And when they get out, his sister was like, "Oh well, it took you long enough." And then Quell comes up to him and she's like, "You broke protocol or something."
Yeah.
That was cheap. That was cheap, is I think what she ended up
Yeah.
getting at. And basically, like he's like, I
it
saw a
works.
weakness to get to the next screen. I utilized it.
Yeah.
And she definitely went further. It was clear that she went further with Tack as far as torturing him and trying to get, kind of had a grudge and taking that grudge out virtually. I think was interesting.
But I mean, it is very impressive to see that these envoys, like how skilled their training goes, like to actually manipulate hallucinations and to displace yourself mentally.
Right, and take control of the program, because we saw Dory, and that's what I found interesting was they did it very well, where they would have a flashback and then it would cut back to the virtual interrogation, and the thing that he just learned would then come into effect in the interrogation.
It was directly related, right?
So there was the, okay, well, you need to be able to take control of the program. He comes back and he breaks out of his chains, and he's all of a sudden somewhere else. Right,
but I think before that, though, I thought was interesting was he had to sell himself as broken. He had to sell it like.
Yeah, you have to make them think that they're succeeding in order to
drop their guard,
to give them a false sense of.
Right, and I think that was the first key, is that you see him and he's like, I'm going through all this, and as the viewer, as I was watching, I said, you know, is he faking? Is he really feeling this? You know, is he selling it? Because you go back and forth on these flashbacks, he knows what he's supposed to be doing,
right?
But he's getting his legs chopped off. He's getting lit on fire.
He's telling him, like, look, sell it to him that you lost it.
I don't think it'd be a difficult sell, you know. But you know, at the end, you know, he's talking to someone who's clearly not there, according to his torturer.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the moment where he's like, okay, I've got him, and then he breaks out and breaks free, and he's able. In the episode, they say he even stops his own heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And Well, there was that clip where. Like, speaking about his heart, like, he gives Kovacs Kovac gives Quell his heart, and Dimitri's like, what are you doing? Like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Right. And he's just kind of like sitting there with his heart, when
it flashed back, so when we see him talking to Quell, he rips his heart out, but when it flashes back to just Dimitri and no Quell, there's no heart. So clearly, like, that was within itself another hallucination. Like,
but I think that was obviously the plan, to be like, okay, I got to stop my heart or do something to kind of get out of the situation, so that they'll pull me out of this program, and then I can take over from here. And that definitely seemed to do the job, and it was symbolic in the fact that obviously he still loves her. Obviously, you know, you're not letting that
we knew that from episode 1 when he was thinking about her while with another woman.
which 250 years after the fact, God bless him.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of going back to episode 3, you know, sorry, I'm going to kind of tie it, Bancroft is like, you don't know what it's like to love someone for 100 years, a century. And you sit there and you're in the audience, you're like, hold on.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Footnote, interesting footnote, you know.
On the one hand, he hasn't physically been with her for that long.
But he still loves her.
But on the other hand, he was in darkness for 250 years, so who knows what he was thinking about while he was in there.
Right. You know, and are you conscious? Are you able to think? You know, who knows? But, you know, the torture, he then wakes up because they got to resuscitate him.
I thought he woke himself up.
Yeah,
it was both.
Yeah, well, didn't he wake up and then they put him back in, and then at the end he broke himself out of it?
I don't remember.
I think what ended up happening is they pull him out of the program, out of the torture program, so that they could resuscitate him if needed. But he had falsely stopped his heart and was like, "Okay, I'm out. Boom, I'm up.
Yeah,
and I'm doing my thing." That was the impression I got.
Okay.
Could have, might have, might have not been the most accurate. Of course, you guys could always correct me, and I'm sure the internet will correct me if I am wrong. Please feel free. You know, judge me heavily. I'm used to it.
That's what the internet's good for.
You know what? That's why it's a friendly place for me. I love doing it with anonymity. Now you get to judge me, and it's going to be fun. Don't judge me for the small fluffy dog, though. I'm telling you right now, that's off limits. Just kidding. Go for it. Judge me. Judge me all you want.
So eventually, after all this stuff happens, he does get out.
Right.
And he kills everyone.
Very John Wick.
She
said this earlier off camera. I loved that. And there was one point that we all agreed was our favorite part of the episode. He slings the pink backpack over, turns around, you get to see this big hilarious image of a happy unicorn.
Hello unicorn.
Hello unicorn. It was just great because you're just like...
Yeah, I don't think there's any other shot that's going to be able to top this in the entire series. Because just like him like walking out with a gun and the bloody thing that he's holding in his hand with a pink backpack on.
That's full of illegal drugs.
But there was another thing that I noticed was when his freaking bullet that he shot went right back into the gun.
That was the prototype gun.
Yeah, so that was the gun he bought from Vernon's guy in episode 3.
Which that guy was funny because originally we see him, he's selling candy to kids, and it turns out he's an arms dealer.
That was great, but like that was because in episode 3 when he bought it, he shoots the gun towards Vernon, and Vernon's like, "What the fuck, guy?" And then he's like, "Wait, stay down,
stay down." So it's a 10-second recall, which and we
got to see it in action.
We got to see it in action. We got to see it work, and it was really an interesting. That was cool to me.
It was my favorite scene so far. I mean, I would have loved. He's like the first person to let me out will like survive, and everyone's just like,
everyone's like, I want to live. I want to live. And everyone died. You know, you should have seen that one.
It was great. Like I love all the people who are like, I just work here.
Yeah. They're all like bloody hands and like computer program. They're like, and then they just get friggin' annihilated.
But then we also saw while this was going on, they were also harvesting.
They were harvesting Alice.
Like I don't know what they were pulling out of her, or like
all of her organs.
It was.
There was like an intestine that they were like rolling into the bucket. But then they were like circling it around her. I thought it was kind of weird how they placed it.
It was very ritualistic.
I didn't know if it was
because we had that overhead shot of her. Like looking down, you see her
storage bins from Office Depot or something.
So
I don't know if that was symbolic for the show or if it was like a ritual, like you say.
I don't know.
I think you brought something up interesting that might tie in later that we don't know. Is the Patchwork Man theory. There could be something there.
And it could have been Dimitri. Like, it could be a symbol for Dimitri because we haven't seen the actual Dimitri yet. And we kind of got to see him kind of like glitching and all of his characters coming through. So maybe because the story was saying that he was put together so much that he started to kind of fall apart, that he can't really like stay together anymore. And I think it might be a metaphor for Dimitri.
It might be. And I think what we weren't seeing were characters. What we saw were actually previous skins or sleeves.
Yes, exactly.
Sleeves. And the more sleeves you jump into, and the way you do it, the more your own personality deteriorates from what was shown in the show.
Unless it's your own clone.
Unless it's your own clone, like the Bancrofts, in which you can infinitely do this without deterioration.
I don't remember. So again, correct me if I'm wrong.
All right.
But I believe they said that that was a problem with quickly jumping into multiple sleeves.
I think it was both. I think it was multiple sleeves and quickly doing it. I think.
But Dimitri's clone or twin or whatever was definitely more messed up than most people we've seen.
Right.
So there's something he's doing differently that's making him deteriorate faster.
Again, this is a duplicate, which we already know is not.
And Kovac didn't Kovac say something about that too? Like,
I don't remember exactly.
He said something about some.
There was
disorder.
within the interrogation, he was like, "Oh, okay," and that was a moment of like.
Because I think it was
power
when he was flashing when he couldn't.
It was glitching.
Yeah,
it was glitching, and he was like, "Oh, so you've jumped through a lot of sleeves," or it was something snarky, and I really enjoyed it. Again, because it was a I'm strapped to this table, but I have control of the room here moment. Yeah. That was very powerful. Thank you for bringing that up. That was good.
So what else did we learn this episode? We had the conversation between Ortega and her partner. About the ghost man that
one.
We didn't even talk about the story in the party.
You're right.
You're right. The random guy that you saw.
We saw him at the party, and then it wasn't until the next episode where they explain more about it.
Right. So, well, and then there's this scene.
I was like, I thought he liked Ortega. But
calling the mom by the first name, and then they gotta be lovers.
Yeah.
They gotta be.
There's something.
There's two. Look at that right there.
I
mean, he could just be a very close family friend.
I think that it might be a plot point where he might be Ortega's real dad. Because he knew her dad, and he's like, I promised your dad I'd take care of you, but maybe he had like an affair with the mom all along. And we don't know that. Because there's some reason why he cares for Ortega so much.
I think he cares for her because he's banging her mom. Like,
that does not mean anything.
You want to be ingratiated into the family at some point. And when people can live to 200 to 300 years, you kind of...
They don't live for two. But that family doesn't.
We don't necessarily know
that. That family not necessarily...
We don't know how long actual people live.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have
the fact that... an idea with Miriam's daughter saying she was 67.
Right.
Miriam's daughter.
But she was also going through bodies and clones. So we don't know, like, if you're born and you never re-sleeve into another body, we don't know...
What the average lifespan actually
600, 700 years in the future, however long this is.
Like in 60s, or if it's like now 40.
Like 60 is the new 30 or something.
Yeah.
And then you have the issue of, her mom may only be X amount of years, and that's it. But partner might have re-sleeved several times. And might have known the mom for however long.
He was Muslim. He's not this neo-Catholic.
He's Muslim, not a monk.
Yeah. So they might not have a problem with re-sleeving.
Yeah. He already made the argument for re-sleeving at dinner. He said, "This is why we need to be able to do this." So he's okay with it. Maybe not on a personal level, but again, that hasn't really been described. But I do think there is a romantic entanglement between.
Obviously,
it's
romantic entanglement.
And it was really awkward. I mean, it was well done, but the fact that it happened felt awkward.
Yeah.
You wanted to be awkward about it. I thought.
It was more of that, like, okay, what's going on with these?
Yeah. You're like, oh God, please no. Like, when you're a little kid and something gross comes in, you're like, oh God, no.
Well, it's like seeing your parents make out.
Yeah. But I think if he was re-sleeved, Ortega's mom doesn't know because she's very against it. She wouldn't even talk to her own mother.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
So if he is, she definitely doesn't know.
Right. Well, while we're on this, let's continue talking about like
that dinner, that moment.
Right. We'll come back to the ghost guy that we forgot to talk about in the last section.
I really like the sleeve that she had picked for her grandmother.
Right.
Well, she didn't get picked. She just
kind of happened. Yeah, but I really enjoyed seeing this big, like, menacing looking dude with all these tattoos.
Piercing everywhere.
Oh, hi, how is everyone?
Fluently in Spanish, just like da 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 da.
Yeah, it was a very lovely juxtaposition.
Yeah. Yes, there we go. We have a picture.
There when they were shopping in the market.
He's just kind of, or I guess she, excuse me, not assuming, is going through re-sleeving and adjusting, and they're helping pick out the cheese at at the end of that scene. And
I thought it was Chili's. Was it cheese?
No, queso.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they go get Chili's after that.
Oh, okay.
So I liked it. It was very interesting. Again, it shows that Ortega bends the rules to her liking.
Yes, she does. I mean, she wasn't allowed to use this sleeve. They did mention that there are rent-a sleeves, but she didn't have permission, and she used it anyways.
Right, just because it was just kind of, it was there.
She incapacitated this guy for talking while she was on the phone with her mom.
Yeah.
And then was like, well, I incapacitated him, and he's now my problem, so I'm just going to borrow this sleeve for a hot second. And again, you kind of end up, at least for me, liking Ortega less the more she decides to break her own rules.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely not like a real honest cop.
Yeah, she's not a good cop that you would think, you know, right?
And yeah, like we said before, she's doing her own thing. Like, she also has her own code of moral ethics,
right,
that she follows, but they don't necessarily align with what she should be doing as a cop.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's probably the big connection between her and Tack.
Yeah.
Is that they both just kind of, they're Machiavellian in the sense that the ends justify the means.
Right, yeah, they're both doing what they feel they have to do to get the job done that they have to be doing, without necessarily following the rules that they should be following to do it.
Right, and as an envoy, that makes sense. Right. As a cop, you just, I feel like the audience ends up not liking. She should be held to
standards.
Right.
She's not above the law.
And I think it's going to come back to get her.
I
have a feeling.
This entire police department is probably corrupted because going back to episode 2, you know, like the body of the missing woman's daughter, or the body that fell from the sky.
Was that 2? I thought that was 3.
No, it wasn't 3.
Okay.
They mentioned it.
Episode 2
was 2 where she goes into the morgue.
Yeah, and pulls the body out.
Which, by the way, was supposed to be was marked empty.
I forget what her name was.
Yeah. So, Henchy.
Henchy. That was the last name.
Yeah, that was the last name.
We'll go with it.
But that was also one of Ortega's like secret covert missions that she wanted to do at the party, was find out more about
who dropped this body out of the sky.
Because like I was saying in the last episode, the body fell from the sky, so it either had to be thrown out of a car or it had to fall from one of these like one of these Jetson buildings that are up there. And she got her chance to go up and kind of try and poke around a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But I also felt like because she was invited to the party, maybe Bancroft thinks she's also a suspect.
I think.
Because he specifically wanted her to represent.
I think that's because of his relationship with her.
I agree.
Or her relationship with him. With the fact that she seems obsessed with this whole thing, with his murder not being a case.
But I don't think we should rule her out as a suspect.
I don't think so. I don't think so
I'm
either. I don't think she is. Like, I'm almost positive she's not, but
she's a fishy cop already, so I feel like...
fishy cop, but I don't think she has the resources to take out someone like Bancroft.
Yeah,
that's my issue. Is the resources she just doesn't have. She's a grounder, as they call it.
Right.
And I just don't think she has the access, and she's not crooked. She hasn't proven herself crooked enough to like.
I think she would though. I think she would have taken him out if she had the chance.
I think only because of the way that Bancroft has treated her.
But
now, after the case.
Not during, she's
not before the case.
She's only salty because she couldn't.
She couldn't
figure it out.
Because Bancroft was like, you need to basically reprimand her, and she can't do her friggin' job. And now she has a personal grudge, which obviously, in my opinion, wouldn't have existed pre. Bancroft's murder.
Right. If she had been able to figure out the case, then this wouldn't have been an issue.
Right. Exactly. And
but of course, if she had been able to figure out the case, there wouldn't be a show.
We wouldn't have a show. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We're glad we have a show. Actually, episode 4 was intense.
Unless she did it.
Yeah. So keeping along the lines with Ortega, the ghost guy.
The ghost guy. Yeah. We kind of totally veered.
Glossed off that one. Yeah.
In episode 3, at the party, she saw this guy.
Small Asian man.
A small Asian man who could have
been...
We've
seen him before, though.
Yes.
He was the fly on the wall.
Yeah, he was the guy that was monitoring the drone.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she saw him at the party, and then...
she thought she saw him, and...
but then her partner, who was monitoring what she was seeing, couldn't see him.
Yeah.
Right. And they end up theorizing that he has found a way to escape all of their retinal cameras and all the scanners for everyone.
There's some advanced image block technology that, even for this time period, he's like, this isn't things.
Yeah, we haven't seen that. I
thought this was a myth, is literally what he said.
Right. He's heard of a theory.
Some kind of cloaking technology of some sort.
Right.
So they call him the Ghost Man for now.
The Ghost Man for now, and the only reason we know he exists for sure is that we actually got to see him, and then he wasn't there.
Right.
And then you can see the little residue.
Yeah.
Right, and then the residue after, which the picture we just displayed before was kind of...
We still don't know anything about him. We don't know if he's working for Bancroft. We don't know if he's working against Bancroft. We don't know if he has something to do with Bancroft's murder.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's like this guy.
But we know that he's following the envoy.
This guy's literally a complete mystery at this point.
Complete mystery. Could be another envoy.
Yeah, it
you know, who knows? You know, there could be more than one. You know,
I mean, he could be in a different sleep.
I mean, if you think about it, with all the skills that envoys have, if one of them did survive and they were wiped out 250 years ago,
he had all that time.
It's entirely possible that over the course of that 250 years, he acquired a lot more skills and a lot more things. Like, who knows where this guy's been?
That would definitely be adapting. That's for sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a really good. That's a good.
That was the only theory I had that was kind of very remote and conspiracy, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We don't know enough yet about the Ghost Man. I did like that portion. That scene was very interesting to me.
It was
cool. To stump.
I mean, episode 4 in general just was like.
Yeah, and I mean to cap it off, after all that happened, after Kovac broke out of the clinic, murdered everyone that was there,
blew up the clinic.
Yeah, Vernon shows up with the Bane-looking guy.
Yeah, right.
That guy was a whole character by himself.
Who Kovac was just like, oh, cool, and shoots him away, and Vernon was like, well, I told him that if he helped me, I'd let him live. And he's like, well, I didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
he literally does not care about anyone.
And then he's walking away with Dimitri's head.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's pissed off.
That was great. Yeah.
He's absolutely pissed off. He went through a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure mentally that was a workout for him, even though he's an envoy.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the police show up at the clinic. They're like, "What the fuck happened here?"
She thought he was dead.
They
got
find
one of these.
They find Dimitri's body with the middle finger
and the tracker.
And the tracker. The tracker. I'm assuming what was in the thing that she had put on his neck.
Basically the ad blocker.
The ad blocker.
Yeah, and so you have Ortega, and she realizes, crap, he caught me, and now she realizes who was there, what he did, and doesn't have really any motive on why he did it necessarily, but she knows she's capable of something crazy
at his apartment, and he's like, okay, you gotta tell me what the fuck's going on. Who's this Riker guy? What's he mean to you?
Right.
You knew something. You know who this body. You know who this sleeve is, and you're not telling me what's going on.
Right.
And he starts cutting himself. And finally, that's when we find out stuff about him being an officer,
former partner,
and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we still don't know exactly what he was framed for, right?
Well, it kind of goes through. We don't know. We know that he was framed by Dimitri somehow.
Right.
I don't think we knew what it was.
It was for something. But again, correct us. Please let us know if we're wrong or if we missed something that you obviously caught. We're happy.
I mean, it's a complex show. It's
there's a lot going on, guys. Come on.
I'm sure in episodes 5 and 6 we'll probably...
They're going to revisit it again, guys.
Yeah, we'll get more answers.
Yeah. But please post theories. Let us know what you think. We're happy to talk about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got... Overall, in these 2 episodes, we got not a lot of questions answered, but we got a lot more information on... where we got more information that is leading to answers for some of these questions that we have.
Yeah.
Except the big one that I have is what's going on with the AIs. Like we had there was nothing about that.
Yeah, we saw a little bit with Poe, and then that was about it.
We saw Poe, but that was it. Like we don't know about the other AIs. Like we don't.
But I'm guessing
know what their endgame was.
In episode 5 we might get more of that story.
I hope so, because like that's what I find intriguing. Is like what do they have going on in the background? That's like are they kind of like puppet mastering this whole thing? Like, are they
could very well be. Could be.
I don't know. So for me, that's my question going into next week. Is I still want to know, what Riker was framed for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't think we'll know next episode though.
No.
They kind of space. It seems like they space step apart.
They like to flashback and call back.
Bring up a question and then answer it a few episodes later.
And I want to know more about what the deal with the AIs are.
Yeah. I think that's good points. And I want to know more about I want to know more about what these sleeves can do. Like we've seen Miriam's sleeves has like some upgrades. I want to know if there's other upgrades that exist.
Well, and then we saw the Bane type guy who obviously had super strength, but obviously being a mechanical.
Yeah, he was like a hybrid. Yeah, he was like like.
So there's a lot that
not just upgraded with whatever mentally, but also upgraded like.
That's what I'm saying. Is like she was upgraded internally, and
he had like an exosuit type thing.
Yeah, he had like an exosuit that gave him probably what we assume was super strength.
But I'm assuming she has enough money to upgrade it and then it not show anything.
That's also
right.
She doesn't have to have that Bane looking outfit.
I mean, not that you'd want that.
Well, I mean,
for the upgrades that she got, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the upgrades that you're like.
You've got to imagine there's probably like 2 different types of upgrades that you want to get. One is the kinds that you can't see, like she got, so that all this stuff, and then there's this Bane type shit that this guy got.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, on the one hand,
maybe he likes that life.
Right. Where
It's
on
function
the
and
one
form,
hand,
kind of.
if you can't see that stuff, when you're able to do whatever it is that you're able to do, it comes as a complete surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
But on the other hand, having all that shit on the outside,
Cheaper.
it's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
It's intimidating,
it's
and you know it's got to be cheaper. A grounder is
Yeah.
much more likely to be
For
able to
sure.
have something like that than someone who's from the area. And I agree that that is a good question that, now we're getting into, not only can you switch infinitely, essentially, but now you can upgrade your own
And I
sleeve.
feel like the son's going to become a bigger plot point.
Yeah,
too.
we've seen a little bit of him. He has a
disgruntled.
problem with drinking. He's disgruntled about stuff.
Isn't he forced to be a teen or whatever? Like, it sounded like Kovacs had mentioned something about how, like,
They're not
it's
letting
an
him grow
issue.
up.
It's an issue when you mess with the transition between boyhood to manhood.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of like this man in a kid's body, and he's
Right.
like,
So who knows?
upset.
Maybe he needled into his mother's body.
That's what I'm thinking. He could have given someone else access to the clone,
Yeah.
and someone else could have taken it. Like,
Yeah, I
he's
see.
family.
I see it more being the son than the daughter.
Yeah. I don't think it was the daughter, but I think the son could have like given someone access to
Yeah.
take his dad's clone.
I think that something like that would easily be recorded. I mean, that company that has those,
Right, but they didn't record things.
They don't record the specific things, but they'd have.
But we also don't know where the
inside.
clones are, we also don't know where the clones are stored, because since the daughter got into one, we've got to imagine they've got certain clones inside the house for some reason.
It's got to be blocked behind quite a big safe.
That's all I'm thinking, is that there's a big safe, and at some point there would be footage or security of something of the son walking in
but if
by
it's
himself.
son,
Like
he
they
probably
have
has
a
access
Westworld
to
like
the footage.
meat locker somewhere.
Maybe.
With a bunch of
That's why I
clones.
think it has to be family.
Family seems like the most
I don't know
logical
if family-
choice.
Family or AI?
Associated.
That's kind of where I'm
Yeah, that's a good point too, because they can erase stuff.
Yeah. So who knows?
Maybe.
Does their house, does the Bancroft house, have its own AI like the hotel does?
I don't think so, because if you remember, they said that the AI, like, I don't know if it's AIs in general or just the AIs that run like the properties like that are very
Outdated.
Okay.
both outdated and one-minded.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
like they liken him to a crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which some of us have been there. But yeah, they do, and they say they're very, like, they get on you. The AI is an interesting one. Can you download artificial intelligence into a stack? Again, for every question that this show starts to answer, it
There's
raises
more, there's
6
more.
more.
Yeah.
And so you start laughing about it. Like, I don't think they'll ever really wrap it up, and that's probably what makes this series so interesting and fun to watch, is that it gives you enough. The carrot is right there, and it gives you just enough to want to keep chasing.
Definitely.
Right. So I'm really looking forward to these next 2 episodes, just to kind of see where. I mean,
Right.
Like the rest of the season, these next 6 episodes, I'm really looking forward to seeing like how everything actually like wraps itself up.
Right.
But I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
And that
To cover for these 2 episodes. So wrapping out, where can we find you guys on social media? John, let's start with you.
I'm actually on Achievement Unlocked on Wednesdays, typically around 8 o'clock. That's usually my start time. I try to be pretty close within a few minutes. I do Driving in Circles with John, Achievement Unlocked.
Yeah, you're one of the top racing.
I try. We're working on it. I'm building more and more. So please catch me on that stream, guys. Comment here. I'll be doing. Hopefully, be doing more Altered Carbon. I really like the show now. I'll be back, but right now, guaranteed Wednesdays at 8. Achievement Unlocked. Driving in Circles with John.
And if you don't follow us on Achievement Unlocked yet, that you can find that at twitch.tv/that#show. I stream on Tuesdays. We have the Pachimari Network, where we cover all things Overwatch League. And you can follow me on all social media at Cranky Cupcakes with a Z at the end.
I will actually be
You'll
joining
be on this
on
week?
Pachimari.
Well, is it this week? When does it come out?
I'm not sure, but I will occasionally join the Pachimari, because I also love Overwatch. But I'm not of the PC Master Race. I still play it on console.
That's fine.
I love Overwatch. It's good. It's fun. But
Play it how you enjoy it.
That's it.
You can find me here on Pop Culture Renegades with the next episode of Altered Carbon next week. You can see me on all of the past Star Trek Discovery shows. Yesterday was the finale, so that was the last episode this season. it's coming back in like a year, so we'll find more Star Trek stuff to do eventually. I'm sure other shows will come around. If you want to follow me on Twitter for whatever reason, I don't know why you would want to. Go ahead if you want to. You can find me at the Goldman. And just doing random stuff behind the scenes here for that hashtag show and Pop Culture Renegades. So that will do it for us for this week, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Peace.